Spider-Gwen comes from?
I think she's on the team, but I'm not positive. Again, I'm not as familiar with, or I'm not super familiar with Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah, me neither.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Daredevil was in there, but he shouldn't be.
In the video game, he is.
Part of the Spider Friends?
No, 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 no. I thought you meant. Never mind.
No. I know that
My brain
he
went
and
on a
Spider-Man
tangent.
are good friends because all the animated series I watched with them had them both swinging uh, via buildings, which really annoyed me.
Right. Because Daredevil. Right. Well, what did you think of that multiverse movie? That's fairly recent, where they got all the Spider-Mans together.
I mean, I always appreciate it when whenever they choose to include older actors into a show. Um,
Yeah, they did that with several Batman animated series stuff too, and like movies too.
but the overall plot I thought was stupid as anything.
From what I've heard, some of the character motivations were very flimsy, like the villains.
Just Spider-Man's motivations were flimsy.
Uh, yeah, I really don't remember what I looked into it about. I did. There are a few key moments that are potentially uh heartwarming or good, but can also be considered. Some of them be considered crossing into what's the word, fan bait. Like Andrew Garfield crying after he saves that girl, like as if he's having a redemption from not saving Gwen Stacy, supposedly. Or at least that's what I heard. You know,
Okay,
have you seen it?
I'm not. I'm not remembering what scene you're referring to.
Oh,
So,
so there's this part where the Mary Jane of Tom Hardy's universe is like falling out of like off a taxi or something, and the Andrew Garfield basically has a recreation of his Gwen Stacy thing that we just mentioned a second ago. But this time he
okay.
actually saves the girl, lands on the ground, and then there's like 30 seconds of him like starting to cry over her. Or maybe not
Oh,
30,
okay.
maybe like 10, 15 seconds. And there's footage of people like seeing it when it came out, cheering and shit, and people being like, "Wow, that's so amazing," because I mean, I can see how that's good, but you can also see it as like a fan service thing, which is fun. I mean, these kind of things are kind of in their nature fan service. Um, and there's just some really interesting scenes that I heard were really good. Like, I think Tom Hardy was gonna try to kill Green Goblin in the original Tobey Maguire classic. I think he called it the classic one. I'll try to call him that for you. The classic one, Tobey Maguire one, stops him and tells him you don't want to do that. You'll live with it forever or some shit like that, And he legitimately stops Tom Hardy with just one hand because apparently he's stronger than him. And then you have the Doctor Octopus subplot, which is interesting. And they even brought back like some of the amazing music from the Sam Raimi one, and they brought back like the theme with Doctor Octopus, which is one of my favorite themes when it comes to that kind of stuff. But he like flip flops back and forth between what team he's on, which if you consider he's mixed up, yeah, but it gets kind of confusing about who's doing what sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And William Defoe, apparently, from what I've heard and seen, kills it as Green Goblin. Apparently, from what I've heard, he could not wait to get back into the seats, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He was waiting for his day to come to do that again. Apparently, and he apparently he fucking nailed it. Apparently, um, I barely remember what I saw. I saw like I looked up several things about it, looking up different, So I saw like scenes, that were discussed. Um, honestly don't remember some of the stuff. I remember thinking some of the stuff that was happening was kind of dumb and a little forced. Um, and then they made a joke about Toby Maguire in the second movie hurting his back. He falls and says, my back." You know, once again, potentially fan service. You know, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Fan service isn't inherently bad. So a lot of people apparently thought that was funny, from what I was told. So I heard that the movie was actually fairly decent. It's just that some of the characters and what they were doing was a little all over the place, which is, which based off of my anecdotal tourist passing through take on it from what little I saw, I can see that. But they brought music from like all the different stuff in it too, which helps sell the scenes that they're in. Just talking about it isn't enough because these scenes apparently evoke different emotions, and that's where the music comes in. I don't know. Do you remember the original Doc Ock in the Sam Raimi one? The theme that they had for him whenever he's like redeeming himself and shit. They
No.
start playing that whenever he realizes, because remember he died, but the Peter of Sam Raimi that we get is post him dying. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, Peter, you've grown up." And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't even watching the fucking movie, and that kind of hit me in the feels a little bit. He's like, "Peter, you've grown up so much and shit," and I was like, "Whoa!" And then they team up. Um, and the Doctor Octopus that they bring in from the multiverse is just before the end, where he has that, where he finally overcomes the AI or whatever it was that was controlling his brain. Um, they kind of, some most of them, they kind of make clear at one point that they came in from, which was like right somewhere at some point in the middle of the movies. Um, but yeah, I heard that it was received pretty well, and I can see why. Because if you, whichever your favorites are, you have stuff there for you. I hear so. I never seen it myself, but I was just curious, like if you saw it and what you thought and stuff like that.
Well, again, my issue was the plot,
Mhm.
the base plot of the movie.
Mhm.
At the end of Spider-Man 2, um, it is revealed to the world due to um reasons. I'm not going to go into the plot that Spider-Man was Peter Parker.
Oh right, I think I heard about that. I forgot.
And so the beginning of this movie is Peter Parker going up to Doctor Strange and asking him to cast a spell so that people forget who he was. And as he's
Oh,
starting to cast a spell, Peter Parker keeps making, "Oh, wait, I want to change it this way. Oh, wait, I want to change it this way." And that screws up the spell so much that that makes all the worlds start colliding.
I remember now. Yeah. Somebody said that the entire movie happened because of that, which
Yeah.
was ridiculous, to
Yeah.
say the least.
And so that's my complaint.
I would agree with you. I remember that now. I remember seeing that and it being discussed. I would agree. There's so many other better ways to make it happen. I
Yeah.
heard. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. But, you know, I've never saw it myself, but I definitely heard in great detail the criticisms about that particular plot point. and how it didn't make any sense, etc. Or there could have been alternative ways to do that, etc. You know,
Mhm.
and how they dumbed down the character in that moment just to make it happen, and blah blah blah. So many different angles. I was like, interesting. I guess I mainly just remembered the parts that people talked about more than what led up to it. I was never intending on going to see it. I don't really like going to see modern stuff too much. I don't expect anything out of it, you know?
I mean, that's your discretion.
Yeah. I just. I did see Black Adam. I didn't pay for it. Somebody paid for it. And I went with them. I saw Doctor Strange when it came out. I was in college and somebody paid for it and I went with them. And you know, I enjoyed myself for the most part, especially like with Doctor Strange, for example. I enjoyed myself.
Mhm.
I saw Moana when it came out. I went to the movie theater with this girl and this older guy that was watching us, Georgia. Um, but I don't actively seek out most of them. I just wait and see, and then I decide if I think it's interesting enough. Cause I end up getting frustrated, like what you describe about it was ridiculous and pointless and forced, etc. I see that a lot. Like you'll see like a character, and they're like, "Oh, this person's so clever. They had it all planned down to a T," and it's really just some really circumstantial things that just happened to happen, and it had nothing to do with their planning. Like, oh, we're gonna go out and go for a walk and we'll be fine. I have a plan. Some random person that happened to be down this road, which is supposedly deserted, just happens to come down the road and save them from starving to death and shit, you know?
Mhm.
It's like, you know, like that was your plan. I mean, it's better than nothing, but still, you know what I mean?
Yep.
They play it off like as if, oh, they're so smart and clever, they totally planned it all down to the T. Or like you get those other ones where they're like in an action scene, and then they're like, they got it, that you they try to make you think that the characters got it figured out, but then there just happens to be something coming by that they happen to use to defeat the villain, and it's like, you that there was no how, like how would you plan that out? That's not something that would normally just happen to be there for you, you know.
Yep.
um, and that gets kind of frustrating sometimes. And then I get really annoyed. They've been doing a lot of "and then they all die" plot lines lately. Um, I feel like they're just trying to be pretentious, like they're trying to be artistic. I feel like I see a lot of directors that try to be like praised as the next Spielberg and John Carpenter and stuff, but they're really just flaking. They flake, they flip flop on the plot and stuff. That's kind of how I feel about. That's kind of the impression I got from some of the various motivations in that Spider-Man one we were just mentioning, and a few other movies. Like they just can't figure out how they want to do things, so they just kind of bump back and forth, and then do these Deus Ex Machina, etc. Um, you know, it just happens to work out that way, stuff, and it's just like, where's, it just they don't sit right with me. So that's why I generally just don't expect to actually be entertained as much. But I did see Black Adam. Did you?
Yep.
Did you like it?
Well, except for the fact that Black Adam isn't Black Adam.
Oh yeah, I read about that. I didn't know. The guy that I was with said he didn't like it, and I'm like, why? He's like, I just didn't. I'm like, oh, okay. And I said I thought it was okay for the ride.
The problem is that they're making Black Adam an anti-hero, and at that stage, he is not. He is 100% a villain.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, like in an obscure way, to like to be fair, he does strictly go on about how his interests are purely in his country, and he even threatens to like kill those hero dudes if they try to stop him. and they back off, you know, and and that other guy was like, yeah, he'll do it, or something like that. I don't remember too well. So there is some of that to some degree where his interests only lie in his own interests.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think there is a little bit of that essence in there, but I know what you mean when you say that.
Oh, they also rewrote his story. It's not
Yeah,
right.
it was an interesting plot twist, though. See, I just came with it not expecting anything. I'm like, somebody's paying for it. I'm gonna try to enjoy myself. I had no expectations because I don't even know who that is, and I I knew I was gonna get frustrated if I thought about it too hard, you know. So I just set myself up into the mindset of fuck it, I'm rolling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there were just some things where I was like, I just kind of rolled with it. What did you think about the comedy?
It was okay. I mean,
You can't help but
there,
admit that, huh?
there, it's really just any more generic The Rock humor. There wasn't anything really as far as Black Adam was concerned that was stand out. I mean, you get basically the same humor in any other movie you see him in.
Yeah, maybe.
Now, I did really,
I kind
really
of did
enjoy.
get that feeling a little bit too.
I really, really did enjoy Pierce Brosnan's performance as Doctor Fate.
Yeah, you know what's funny is in a lot of the promotional material, he looks like he has no reason why he's there. He's like, "What am I doing?" They'll try to include him on some things, and he'll just look dazed and confused, like he don't know what the hell they're talking about. But yeah, I think a lot of people agree with you, and I can see why. He, it felt like he was doing things. You
No,
know?
you'd have to know a little bit about Doctor Fate and realize that Doctor Fate is unfortunately one of those characters that gets written however the author needs him to be.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about him not being able to do the things he's supposed to be able to, or something.
Oh, his power levels are all over the place. Sometimes he's fairly weak. Sometimes he's stronger than Superman. It's he he is ridiculous. But again, depends on what the writer is doing.
Now, when you mention that, too, I did notice something in the movie. The character did go on about how they're like about how he's aged and he's like needs to retire and he seemed like kind of worn out. So
Hmm.
maybe they justified their limiting of him as with that, because
The thing
that was brought up several times up until when he's died.
the thing is, he himself doesn't have any real power. It's all from the helmet,
That was the
all of it.
impression I got, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So age isn't really a thing that would be that would be limiting him.
I see. Would he age at all?
Yes, he's still mortal, but the powers he gets from the helmet are grant
Transcendent.
him ridiculous powers. It's he's given uh basically magic in excess of what Doctor Strange would have.
It was
But
like a super strange.
his powers are given for very specific purpose. He exists to serve the Lords of Order and to create a balance between chaos and order on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So he is not necessarily a good guy. He's not necessarily a bad guy. He just strives for balance.
I will be honest with you. There were several times in the movie where I thought it was going to be revealed that he was actually going to betray them to try to, because they did talk about some of that. Him being only interested in what fits the balance, and it was implied that he was going to turn over on those guys that he was with for the sake of it, until he changed his mind for something. I forgot what happened. But
Well,
now that,
traditionally he's a good guy simply because there's always more bad guys than good guys in any of these stories.
well, yeah, and there's usually situations where they're causing chaos anyway, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, now I see. So now it makes a little more sense to me now because I don't know anything about the guy except for what I heard afterwards. Um, but yeah, he did. It was implied in the movie that he can flip the coin on them at any time to serve his purposes. And I felt, I don't know if the people watching did, but I started feeling a little tension, like there might be a setup for something. But then I was like, I'm thinking too hard about it. This is modern day stuff. I'll just stop think about it. And
Mm,
I just kind of rolled with it. I didn't dismiss it per se. I still had it in my mind, you know, but I didn't know much about the character and stuff like that. And they did like this moment where he kind of came back around to what they wanted to do, and it was kind of like a nice hurrah, you know.
mm-hmm.
It was like a low key hurrah, and I thought that was kind of nice. I thought that was nice, a nice feeling. But yeah, for a minute there, I thought he was gonna have to fight them too. I was half expecting him to start whipping their ass.
Of the people that were there, he would not have had any issue kicking the other guys' butts. Black
Go,
Adam was the only real threat.
yeah, going from what you told me, yeah. When you mention that how powerful he is, it makes a lot more sense why they're way more careful when talking to him than they are with each other. Aside from him being a senior member, you could tell that the way they set up the interactions with the characters, you felt like there was more to him than just him being there and being around longer than they were, you know? Because they're very careful not to step on his toes. When he disagrees with something, they hardly, if I remember right, they hardly, if at all, push back. But if they disagree with each other, they straight up argue
Mm.
in the movie. Um, and I noticed that right away. Like he's the big bad, you know. I tend to notice stuff like that. I'm starting to think the movie might have been slightly more clever than I thought. Now that you're giving me some context to who this guy is.
Yeah.
Now, I did hear a lot about how he did a disservice, but I don't really know how. But you're shedding some light on that for me, and I appreciate that. I mean, you noticed that too, didn't you? About the characters and how they were interacting?
Yep. Well, I thought it was weird that if my memory is still working, which I never rely on, but if I remember correctly, they had
Same.
two junior characters in this squad. They had
Yeah, they had
Stargirl, and
like
then they had I can't remember who the other one was.
Adam Smith, the guy that got big.
Okay, the Atom.
The guy that got big was like the trainee cadet, and then you had like Tornado Girl, who was like slightly less cadet.
Well, that was Stargirl,
Okay,
and Atom.
Smasher or something
Atom
like that.
is typically ex-military, so he's not usually young. But
Yeah.
yes, and most stories like that usually only do one junior person,
hmm
unless there's a romantic interest, which there shouldn't have been in that movie. Not the romantic interest was for Black Adam, not the other characters.
If I recall, didn't wasn't there like some didn't they set up a little bit of tension between a couple of those members?
Not that I can recall.
I don't remember either. But I think when you mentioned this, unless there's tension, and I was like, wait a minute, I think I remember there was a couple of little small little bits. I don't
There might have
remember.
been. Again,
They
my memory isn't good.
well, I mean, there's no telling. They probably re-scrapped parts of it multiple times. And there was probably like a thread of it left behind where there was, you know. And they probably reshot a lot of the stuff too to like rewrite whatever it was that they decided to cut out or whatever, you know. And that can leave threads and stuff too. What'd you think about the Henry Winkler cameo?
I'm not sure who that is.
It's the guy that played the Fonz, and he's been in like several movies.
Oh,
He's been
it's
in
fine.
Adam Sandler movies and other stuff too.
Again, I'm always happy to see when they bring in some older actors in for stuff.
That's true.
So
I don't know how to feel about it. It felt kind of weird to me. It's
it
supposed to
is
be his
weird,
uncle.
but from a practical standpoint, older actors generally don't get acting roles anymore.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
don't get me wrong. I'm perfectly happy for it.
yeah.
I'm here for it because I'm in the position to where I think, and my mentality is like they may never ever get the chance to do this again, and that's it.
Hmm.
Like for example, uh, the Batman thing that my dad was talking about. Like I agreed with my dad 100%. You may never ever see him be a Batman ever again after that. And there's a lot of wasted potential that goes to waste with a lot of characters because of this. Like for example, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
William Defoe's getting up there. You know, a lot of those subplots that were cut off a little bit with the Green Goblin, etc. You know, they could be potentially explored upon. But Sam Raimi sworn off dealing with Sony ever again. Obviously so, because it was a toxic relationship. But that's aside the fact. You know, it's a shame. It could be considered a shame in various situations. Like it wasn't allowed to flourish the way it was meant to. Now, in Spider-Man 3, when he gets like the dark suit and it brings out his like brings out those emotions, and then he's also like dealing with the fact that he's now like the most popular guy, you know. Um, I actually like that scene. You know, where he gets dressed and does the dance and all that. You know,
Hmm.
I really like that. I still do. It it's like whenever like a character turns dark for a bit, and you kind of get that feeling of like, whoa. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's not what I got. That was for me. Kind of like when, like, I got that same feeling in Episode 3, the Star Wars thing, when Anakin shows up and they're playing that badass marching music and shit.
User in your channel timed out.
That must have been Nordic. They're playing that badass marching theme and stuff. Um, you know, and you like, they either the enemy crossed the line or he's had enough of their shit of whatever's happening and crossed the line. You know, just that
Hmm.
moment that's really intense, and I happen to be a sucker for some of those sometimes. Like like when Goku like had enough and he like fucking blasts the fucker, you know, away, kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm paraphrasing, obviously, not being specific. But you're like you done fucked up, like when Gohan snapped. Now, interesting thing about that, did you know whenever Teen Gohan uh goes to fight Cell, I learned something interesting about that. You want to hear about it?
Sure, go ahead.
So apparently, from a few sources, apparently with interviews and other stuff, um, leading up to the Cell games, uh, the main Toriyama and whoever was there with him helping him make decisions and stuff. I don't remember who the crew or whatever. I don't remember any of that. They decided to make Gohan the new main character, and they wanted a soft reboot, kind of. They wanted to kill off Goku and make Gohan the new main character and go back to a comedy series and stuff like that. You know, they wanted to do a reset with a like new protagonist doing different stuff, you know? And that's why I found out that at the time that those episodes were showing and other stuff, people noticed that Gohan's character just changed. And they're right. Um and that's why. Apparently that's why. He rewrote Gohan's character um and just destroyed all the build up to that point, you know? And that's why Goku died, apparently, according to what they said and he said in interviews, etc. I don't like assuming too much because people are people, you know. Um, but according to what information's out there, yeah, that's why the Cell games at the end of it felt so disjointed and contradictory in some places. And then they skipped ahead to where Gohan is the way he is, and they are like, no, this ain't. I don't think this is working. So they wanted to bring Goku back and start a whole new arc, and that's why the Boo saga is such a mess. They started bringing in new writers and stuff like that to help bring in stuff and all this other stuff, and they couldn't decide on which way to go. They kept flip flopping, and I mean, as a person that studied Dragon Ball growing, like whenever I was like up in high school, I got like the entire set and I studied it for years to learn about how it all works and all this. I always considered the Boo saga to be like the separator, you know, because it was very clearly not right. You know what I mean? What I mean by not right, it's just all over the place. I didn't. I'm not saying that it's not good or you don't watch it. I'm just saying I don't consider it being as like an actual continuation. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like one of those specials that they would do sometimes on DBZ or something. Not like not talking about like the Bardock special. I'm talking about the one where like Vegeta's brother shows up. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel about the entire Super series because it's like they watched Team Four Star and just derived Goku off of that and made him 16 years old looking. Anyway, let's not get into that issue. But yeah, so apparently that's why everything got all haywire like it did, and into the Buu saga, uh, was because he wanted to try to reset basically, which I'm not criticizing him for per se. I understand. I can understand how it gets. Um, but yeah, so that's interesting to me.
I know that when I was watching Dragon Ball Z and it got to high school Gohan, I was
Hmm.
actually looking forward to the series again because
Oh
it was
yeah, me too.
changing from what it was, and then
I thought it was cool that he was
it
like helping
didn't
people and
last
shit.
long.
I, his feats of like saving people, I found that intriguing. I thought it was cool. I agree with you. Well, not necessarily that changing it for the fact of changing it, but I thought it was interesting for the fact that this was going on. You have these super, because like up to this point, these people were very clearly separated from the average people more often than not. That's why one of my favorite episodes is the episode whenever Goku and Piccolo go to driving school, and they just terrorize the public. You know,
Hmm.
just seeing these gargantuan, at this point, leviathans try to interact with normal society is really fascinating. Um, and I guess I just find that interesting, the fish out of water stuff. So you have Gohan who saved the world, trying to keep it low key, and he's like low key superheroing and then mimicking things that he's seen. Well, I know people try to draw connections, but we know how Toriyama rolls. He likes it. He's very fascinated with the poses, and I mean I get it. It's Japan, you know. I mean I thought the poses were. I didn't think they were that bad, but other people in the series. Anyways, um, but yeah, I just see that as a Toriyama Japan esque thing when people do like poses like that and be all silly because it's like it's also played as a self aware joke, but it's also meant to be a thing, you know.
Hmm.
And I don't see it as Gohan reflecting on his trauma or whatever. All this stuff people try to make connections where they don't. I don't think they exist. Um, because Gohan was completely rewritten to be a completely different person before that leap happened. You know. I don't
Hmm.
like fighting. Bitch, you mean you fucking beat Frieza's ass for like 30 seconds. You went back to save your dad from fucking Vegeta of your own volition when Krillin said, "No, we have to go now." You're gonna sit there tell me, "Oh, I don't like your fight. I'm scared." I'm not. I'm just being. I'm just exaggerating for the sake of just like silliness. I'm not trying to make fun of it per se. But it is a badass moment when you see like Gohan like fuck shit up. And then they play the angle of, oh, he was too arrogant, which I don't know about that. He always got to the point. Anyways, aside from the elephant in the room about that, um, this Gohan is a new Gohan, you know,
Mhm.
and I'm fine with that. And it's whenever all the other stuff starts getting really messy because he starts trying to steer back in to try to make it into a thing because he just didn't want he changed his mind and he didn't want Gohan to be the main lead with different stuff again, or whatever. You know what I mean? He wanted to bring Goku back. And then Gohan just spent the entire series getting shit on up to that. After that, I feel it's horrible. Like the beatdown that Gohan got from Boo was worse in the manga. It was about as bad, actually, but it was a bit worse, apparently, from what I've been told. I haven't really read the manga that part because the Boo Saga is like a brevity watch, not a I'm into the thing watch. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I've seen it so much to where it just sticks out to me. So many different things. Like there's so many lessons that characters forget about. Like Vegeta, for example, at the end of the Cell thing, he's like, "Dude, I just fucked up." I mean, he did clutch, but he learned so many lessons. Vegeta was humbled by the Cell games and stuff, big time. He was humiliated. He fucked himself over, and he knows it. He finally was like, "Trunks, man, I fucked up. Now you're fucking dying." You know what I mean? Vegeta but then they just did it over again with the Boo arc thing, and he's like, "Oh, I wanted to be evil so I could beat you," and it's just there's a lot of boneheaded decisions between the characters that I don't think would have flown in Z. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so and I think that's a side effect of all these different writers coming in and out and them trying to decide where they're taking things. Um, and so to me, I just have to take it as I'm just here for the ride at this point, just to see cool scenes happening because it's just kind of like, oh man, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And stuff. But yeah, I thought the Gohan protecting people as a superhero was kind of cool. He's a leviathan in a normal person's world. Maybe that's what sparked my curiosity for the overpowered main character stuff. As a growing up, I don't know. Back then, I didn't even know Dragon Ball Z was anime when I was a kid. My cousin was a very hateful person. He drilled it into my head that anime is from Japan and they're evil.
Mm.
And then
I
and
know that
then
that was something that World War II vets pushed for quite a long time too.
well, my cousin, who I've disowned, is a bigoted, hateful, lying, deceiving a hole. He will cut off your arm to try to sell it back to you. He's the reason why I went homeless. He's one of the main reasons why I went homeless when I was a kid. Him and his mom, they're the same. Lie, cheat, and steal. Family don't do that, so they're not my family. That's the conclusion I came to. They stole all my stuff, got me put in jail, and took away. I still haven't figured out what happened with the inheritance from my grandfather or my mom. Took my home from me that he left me. Took all my stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't surprise me looking back on it because I always knew he was bad. But my grandfather treated him like the preferred child, because of the appearance he put on. But yeah, anime saved my life, as you know. I've told you that before, I think.
You have.
Anime has really helped me to try to take better care of myself. It means so much to me. It's helped me understand feelings that I didn't understand on my own, and then it offered solutions to be healthier. Like it's okay to feel emotions. It's okay to cry. Sometimes you need help. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like whenever you see the trope with like the rich person that's struggling, so they start acting out, or they're struggling and they're so over pressured they have to be perfect and all the stuff they break down. That was me. I've experienced that when I was growing up. I was expected to always know what to do all the time, so nobody bothered asking me or talking to me about anything. So I didn't know how to ask for anything. I mean, there's a few other things that I've seen that were reflected in some of the states I've been into, but you know what I mean. But when I was in school, I was under a lot of pressure to be perfect because I was. So yeah, I've dealt with a lot of those things that anime talk about, and that's why it helped me. It helped me understand what I was dealing with and how to deal with it. Anime is what helped give me the strength to break up with my abusive first ex I was with, and stopped me from killing. It stopped me from hurting myself really bad. Now I still got hurt because I spent most of my life being homeless, but that's aside the point. It helped inspire me. It gave me the strength to understand and whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of great life lessons. So I heard an opinion that's been coming up and around, and part of it's Team Four Star's fault with their parody. But there's an opinion that Goku's a bad dad,
I
and
mean, okay. I don't know how he couldn't be, but continue.
I disagree. There's a lot of examples of Goku doing things for his family.
There's a lot of things with Goku totally ignoring his family to go do whatever he wants, like going into a tournament.
It's true, but the reward money though. Chi was all about the reward money though.
The issue with Goku is that he's a child in a man's body.
Yeah, yeah, there's truth to that. However, I do have to say though, throughout Z, you do see him grow a lot, especially like later in Z, like around the cell area. He becomes more of a role model in that area, in a lot of areas. Because like for example, like during the time, he could have stayed in. He could have kept training and stuff after a certain point, but he decided to spend the last time he had with his family. You know, they have like a normal family life for like what, like a year and a half up to that point or something like that. But yeah, I definitely agree. Like early Goku, they had to explain to him what marriage was. He's like, "Oh, I'm old enough now. Time to marry me." He's like, "What's that mean?" you know?
Yeah. Well, no. Chi literally married a child. There's
Yeah,
zero question about that.
right. To be honest with you, up until whenever it's time for Gohan to go into the Cell games, I think the peak, not the peak. I think my favorite parts were mainly in Namek to some degree. And I have different parts I like sprinkled throughout too. Uh, but whenever the androids start showing up, it was actually revealed that he was a little confused on how he wanted to take that too. Apparently, he said something about he originally wanted it to be uh just them, but and then like the time travel thing wasn't even originally thought of, but then he changed it. I don't remember why he said he changed it, but apparently, supposedly, he said that he just kind of added more to it than what was initially planned. So I thought that was interesting. And then you have that really awesome scene with like Vegeta when he goes Super Saiyan for the first time, and it plays the piano thing but in reverse. Such a good moment, you know. He's like, do you machines ever experience fear or something like that? Such a cold line, you know.
I mean, I watched Dragon Ball Z once, many years ago. I'm not gonna remember every little bit.
Oh yeah, I've watched it ad nauseum. I've studied it. I also noticed that between the different Super Saiyans one and two, they take on different elements. Like one is like fire, you know, intense fire, and which gets refined later on as Goku surpasses it by a bit. And then two is like sharp lightning, you know. I mean, obviously because electricity, but there's more to it, like how the form works and how snappy he is, you know. And I didn't really have the internet back then to really get other people's opinions to influence my own. That's just what I've come to the conclusions of on my own. But yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot of details that apparently a lot of people forget about the series, and that's probably why it gets filled with the parody, I guess. Because I hear that there's not a whole lot of people that actually either remember Dragon Ball the same way or watched it the same way.
Well, it's also going to be different from someone like me, who, when I watched it, I watched them all on DVD, and I watched them all back to back over, I don't know, a couple weeks.
Right, yeah.
Versus those who are watching it, on their weekly or daily or however it was originally
Exactly,
put out.
yeah. I used to watch it a bit when it was airing, which by that point was probably reruns, but the point still stands.
Well, it also would have been distributed differently here than it would have been in Japan. Like, Japan would have usually
Mm-hmm.
been a weekly, whereas here, because this is years after it was originally released in Japan, it may have been daily. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was trying to think of too. What are you doing in Elite Dangerous right now?
Just flying courier missions.
Okay. I was wondering if there's anything you'd be up to that we could do together or something else. I don't know. I'm just in this funk because I'm starting to get sick.
Your call. If you want to come on, we can figure something out. But if not, that's also fine.
It's hard for me to say one way or the other because I'm feeling sapped of my energy. I don't know what to do. I've been sitting here staring at my library. Like I know I want to do some things, but what I don't know what to do. you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'll try that new Rune Factory game that I got.
Okay.
That's what I'll. This is like a chill game usually. Oh wait, no, I can't play it right now because I'll have to watch the intro and I want to see what the story is, so I can't play it right now.
Why
Because
not?
I want to talk to you. I'm enjoying myself, Mister. I don't know. I was gonna say something complimentary.
No, to be perfectly honest, I was thinking of getting off the chat shortly anyway.
Why is
Gonna get
that?
something to eat and get a couple things done because I gotta be up a little bit earlier tomorrow.
Okay. Well, it was nice having you.
Yep,
Sorry.
no problem.
I don't mean to sound like a downer.
Oh, you're not. Yeah. As soon as I land, I'll get off.
All right. Well, you like the Batman games, right? Like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City.
I've never played them. I
I've
mean,
barely
they
played.
visually look nice, but I've never played them. So.
Apparently, they're masterclass classics. They're like based off of like the animated series, like the voice actors and stuff. There are
Mhm.
some deviations, but whenever I played Arkham Asylum for the first time, I was like, yeah, this is like you're playing an episode in the animated series. The asylum starts off with Joker. You're taking Joker to the asylum, and Batman's like, "We need to be careful because this was just too easy." So he personally follows Joker into the asylum while they have him strapped to this thing, this cart,
Mhm.
and and then Croc comes by and tries to be like, "Arr, arr, arr," and then he goes on about his business, and like there's this part where like the power goes out and then the light comes back on, and Batman's holding Joker by his throat to make sure he doesn't try anything. Because Batman is tense. The scene's tense. Batman is so tense that he thinks something's going on because it was way too easy to get Joker this time. Um and I mean, sure enough, he was right, but you know, but the point is that there's a lot of things in there that it's like a Batman thing. It's like you'll go around and you'll zip line to things and you'll like tie up a dude, hang him upside down from it, and stealth. There's like some stealth stuff going on, and
Mhm.
then you have to like use your head a little bit on certain things to figure out how to beat them. You know, so it's like
Mhm.
classic Batman game stuff. Like there's like an old one called Vengeance, I think it was Batman. Anyways, that's done like in the style of the animated series. And that one you also had to use your head on certain things too. Um, which I beat as a kid. My dad was into. It's actually a pretty good game. Um, so yeah, so it turns out the Joker did actually have a scheme, and you and everyone gets caught up in it, and they take over the asylum with prisoners and stuff. So you have to deal with the different people, Ivy, etc. Or maybe not Ivy, but anyways, yeah. There's
Mhm.
like a lot of little nods and Easter eggs, and they got the classic voice acting, classic Joker shenanigans here and there where he fucks with your head. Now there's this part of the game where like you start having this vision from like Scarecrow serum, and you start visioning yourself as a kid and all that other stuff that happens. And then there's this part where you beat him, and then there's another sequence where the game makes you think the game crashed. Now I don't know. Whenever I played it originally on the Xbox, I think my game broke for real. No, I don't mean that like it tricked me. I mean like people I bought two copies of it and the same thing happened. I went and got it replaced. And people act like, "Oh, it was just a short little thing that happened and then it continued," but it never done that. I left my Xbox on all night and it still didn't do shit. It just sat there being frozen, acting like it's frozen. I even tried pressing the A button multiple times because they said, so one person said you had to press the A button. But I mean, at the time I didn't have internet that like I do now, or nobody really talked about it that I could find, or I didn't look it up. But I did try to press buttons, nothing. So I never made it past that part. Um, but yeah, so the scarecrow thing gets really like fourth wall scarecrow stuff between, and then um, you can look up some gameplay of it. I'm sure you'll be satisfied with some of that. It's interesting because you have to like do Batman stuff. Well, then you have the sequel, Arkham City. Um, there's like this political push to make section off a part of the city by this bad guy. I forgot who the hell he is. To be a designated prison zone for some reason. And Bruce Wayne is like, no, this is bad. We shouldn't do it. And then since Bruce Wayne is a political opponent, they have him arrested and thrown into Arkham City that they have established, and other people too, not just him, obviously. That's the thing that Batman's trying to get to the bottom of, was the political bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then, you have this really cool scene where you're looking at the moon. And it's got that atmosphere, and then he's like, like the fucking the dude airdrops a fucking Batman suit for him from the sky. It was pretty cool. And so you have like this massive free roam environment to be Batman across part of Gotham City. Um, and it's regarded as, and I can see why, the peak of the Arkham series. Um, and there's a lot of things going on. You have Catwoman, you have all these different things. You have like a lot of details. Like there's a chance for Bat Guy to show up sometimes if you, depending on if you did a side quest or not, etc. Um, and yeah, so you just have like a bunch of like rogues gallery going on. And then some crazy shit happens with the Joker. I don't want to ruin it too much, but yeah, you do. And you run into Mister Freeze, if I remember. And once again, they bring that animated series feeling in there, but they also have their own derivative story of it too, because it's kind of like a little more gothic to some degree on some of the details. And then Harley Quinn gets a redesign as well for the new environment. Um, you could do the Batman glide. That's always a big thing in those games. And you have the zip line, all of the classic gadgets, and some of the new ones that you can upgrade and stuff. So yeah, and then Arkham Knight came out after that. I heard that people are liking it a bit more now than when it came out, but you have that. Yeah. So I've played a little bit of City. I haven't beaten it though, because I got it years ago. I have it on my Steam. Uh, never gotten back around to trying to play it. I did download some mods to try to help keep it running on a modern system though, which it seems to run regardless. But they're mainly just like texture upgrades, slightly to add a bit more RAM to how the game does things or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they're mainly just that kind of add more detail, which the games already look beautiful regardless. You know, they look beautiful even for being old. They are. But the thing is like the Xbox 360 had like megabytes of RAM. It didn't even have a gig. At least if what I read was correct, which it may not be. I don't like to assume too much. But apparently the Xbox 360, some incomparable consoles around that time period, I thought they would have had like a gig or two, but no, apparently not. So that's interesting to me.
Um, Nintendo 64 had 64, GameCube had 128, and I'm not sure where the Xbox 360 came in, whether it was one generation after or not. But assuming it was one generation after, then that would mean it probably would have around 256.
Yeah, probably. 360 was after PS2. So you had Xbox, and then you had Xbox 360.
And PS2 was around GameCube's time, wasn't it?
Yes, that would be correct. Around the time 360 was around was the Wii, give or take.
Okay. I know Nintendo wasn't putting out a console for quite a while after the GameCube, so I'm not sure what the Wii's system basic was.
Motion controls.
Yes, but I mean as far as uh megs of RAM.
Oh, yeah. It didn't have as much, if I remember correctly.
I think at that point, Nintendo usually had half as much as the competitors because they weren't even trying to do the same scale of graphics.
Yeah, a lot of the games that reported to the Wii that had other console releases were had considerable downgrades, but they also had interesting things that made them interesting too. At least from what I've heard a lot of different Wii game reviews talking about the different ports of certain things. That seems to be things that I hear here and there.
I'm not pretending to be an expert.
Same. Same.
So when I was landing at that station for the last thing, um, as soon as I get into the system, like the actual dropping from Super Cruise or faster, whatever, the faster, yes, yeah, Super Cruise, into the little area with the station, I get a message that oh somebody's coming for me, and I'm like, well, that's a little too late.
You're already landing.
Yeah, and then I'm like, you know what? Q's talking. I'll go in and check the equipment. And I go in, and lo and behold, they're selling a engineered level 3 rocket launcher.
What?
Yeah.
I've been looking for anything above level 1. You gonna
So
get
I'm
it?
like, yeah, of course I bought it.
Yeah, good. I would have jumped on that too.
Seth would have been wanted it too. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that is funny. That's crazy. Oh, excuse me.
If I think about it, the next time I'm on, I'll go and check and see if another one spawned. And if it did, I'll let you guys know. I'm sure you guys would make the trip out there to pick that up.
Yeah, I would. I've been looking for any excuse to upgrade without having to wait. In my opinion, if I can try to find a vehicle, the thing that's level 3 to start with, it'll save me a lot of wasted materials. I see it as a waste if I could potentially just not engage it. The grind is not something that appeals to me.
Yeah, I had assumed that we would have had most of the materials needed to upgrade, and then I took a look at it when I was in the shop, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't have some of these materials.
Yeah, Seth said he went to the bartender and he traded up and down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me about a few days ago. That's how he figured out how to do that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna log off. You have fun with your rune game, and I hope you feel better.
Yeah, I installed a couple of quality of life mods. The game updated, so I'm gonna have to sift through them and see which ones are updated or.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some games actually update very well for keeping mods functioning. And then other games, it's just like, no, no, we adjusted this checksum slightly. It breaks all the mods. Like,
Yeah, there's
why?
there's games that are over 20 years old, like 20 years old, and have a set modding community, and then they update it, and it breaks everything for the past 20 years, and most of it never gets updated again.
Yeah. Well, I heard that the MechWarrior 5 community lost a lot of players when they did an update and broke all the mods.
Yeah, they started doing a lot of updates in a short amount of time. That's why Seth and I kind of quit because it was causing kind of a headache, and I was like, you know what? Because when it update, we have to wait for the mod to update. You know,
Hmm.
it's like, you know what? Let's just wait until they burn their wheels, and then we'll come back. That's kind of where we're at right now. Because that's basically that was my decision, and Seth
Yep.
agreed after trying to fiddle with it for a while. After a few days.
Yeah. Well, for that particular one, I heard that the this was early on in their game design, and the engine itself was extremely bare bones, and so these mods were making the game really good, and then it broke it.
Some of them are added to the game as features. Like there's several mods about not being forced to use a certain tonnage, and that became a default option in the game. Same thing with certain other stuff too. So a lot of mods end up getting added because like the base game, like if you go off default settings, they force you to use like a certain tonnage, so you can only bring like a one robot or so, and it's just kind of a stupid. It defeats, from my point of view, it defeats the purpose because you're just by yourself against a horde, kind of. So
No, okay.
yeah, and that's how I found out about the mod and how the mod became a feature. I looked it up. I'm like, hell no. Ain't no way you're gonna give me a fucking build a robot game and tell me I can't bring the fucking robot. You know?
I mean, most MechWarrior games that I can recall were like that in the early game parts of the story.
Yeah, it stays that way for a while. I tried to stick it out, and then I realized it was already a feature.
I just remember in MechWarrior 2 that, you got stuck with smaller mechs, and as you progress through the story, you got access to
Oh,
larger ones.
well, let me rephrase. There's a bit of a misunderstanding. The game will restrict you forcibly. Like, let's whenever you start the game, you have like one little shit, and then shortly after the game, like you do the first couple of missions, you unlock a slightly bigger shit, but it won't let you use it because it'll restrict you to only using like 10 tons. So that means you can't like add all you can't like move your weapons around like you want and other things like that. It just won't let you play the game. And
Oh,
then
okay.
in the game, right from the first bit that you play the game sells team play where you have yourself and another AI and you're working together. But the game forces you to where you can't do that for the longest time. And then even later in the game, there's still missions that restrict you forcibly, even with the thing that turns it off as an option. And um like when you get the new vehicle, you can't even use it because you just gotta pray that they start lifting it. So almost every mission has restrictions like that, and it's like, what's the fucking point? I have to fight this big ass fucking crab using this shitty ass light mag. Like how you know?
Mhm.
Not I mean, okay, that's an extreme example, but it does get rough like that if you try to play it straight. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I don't like that. I don't think that's not the idea that I had for whenever I was like, okay, I'll get this game now that it's on sale.
Fair enough.
And like I said, right from the start, the game sets you up with the idea that you're going to be playing with a team, but they don't let you for the longest time. Even though you have all the robots, you even start with like crew members that you can assign vehicles to, but it just won't let you. And that includes that counts for both versions of the mode, the story mode and the campaign mode. I don't know if you know anything about that, but like there's a campaign mode which is free form where you can have freedom to do whatever. Story mode. But then there's the campaign mode where you're just straight up just dropped into a campaign and you decide how you want to start. You decide what faction will be or what scenarios you want to do or focus on. Because like you could even focus on like specific scenarios under certain time periods. Um, and then you're just free to manipulate, do however to capture territory, etc. You know, it's like a big campaign map kind of thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like that's something that they had in the Dawn of War 2 game.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of neat. I haven't played that one. Seth has though.
User entered your channel.
Seth has played the Dawn of War stuff. I don't have it. Never got to.
You.
Wait, calm down, dude.
Or thunder, please.
I'll think about it. I'm trying to sort out something right now.
I said please.
Well, I appreciate that.
But I said please.
Actually,
But I said peace.
anyways, good night, Roller.
Night roller, sleep tight.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
User disconnected from your channel.
What? Are you beating your meat?
You
What?
ruined my romance.
Are you beating your meat? Right now?
No, I have my meat in the fridge.
I can't with you, bro. I can't with you. No. You wanna play naval?
Sounds like you need help.
You wanna play naval? Please, naval.
I can in a minute. I'm
Okay.
trying to see about something. Okay.
Yeah, the first ship that I'm gonna get in my rank 4 though is the Ikoma, because I want a battle crew. I want a ship with battleship guns, and also another reason I want it is because it has a lot of 6-inch guns on the sides.
Right.
And 4 to 7-inch guns, more 6-inch. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna get that ship first.
Huh.
After I